You can't remember.
Can't wait to hear that.
Huh?
Good afternoon to this extraordinary afternoon session of the Cemetery Board. I'm Dan Shapiro. I'm Station Paralysis Technically as Chair.
I'm Christopher Wiles, representing the Attorney General, Eric Schneider.
Paul Ambrose, representing Acting Commissioner Howard Zucker, Department of Health.
Lewis?
Louis Polishuk, Director, Division of Cemeteries.
Len Green, Investigator, Division of Cemeteries.
Alicia Young.
Oh, go ahead.
Alicia Young, Division of Cemeteries.
Carrie McGovern, Investigator, Division of Cemeteries.
Joe Ambrose, Associate Accountant, Division of Cemeteries. Tony Malolo, Counsel to the Cemetery Board.
Well, here we go. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for attending. I'll try and move us through. I do understand there's an event tonight at the plaza. It's going to really clog up traffic. I don't think we'll be in conflict with it, but we'll make it through as expeditiously as possible. Yeah, it's on it. A traffic advisory this morning. Yeah, I forget what it is. Anyway, why don't we go through minutes of previous meetings?
What time? What time do we need to be
No,
out here by?
no, it's late. It's like at 6 or something like that.
I'll make sure to filibuster them.
I know you're fully capable of that.
I have the phone book with me.
Have folks had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
I'll just make one general comment. There's a lot of, you can have mine when I'm done. There's a lot of articles and transitions that are unfortunately missing in the sentence structure. So rather than go through them one by one, I'll just pass back some of my corrections and ask that it just be looked at and corrected.
Why don't you circulate to these guys so they can see
Oh,
that
look,
they've signed off on
they
your
have the same
corrections?
issues, I think. We can just provide our copies. I mean, things like the, to, is, of, there's a lot of missing words.
I think I'm the one who wrote these too.
You did it shorthand, but the gist is there, and just the structure needs a little help. So I'll pass that back. My first correction or suggestion would be on the abstention. I would say, Paul Ambrose's abstention or abstention of Paul Ambrose, since you weren't here prior, you weren't participating anyway. But we should report who abstained.
Got it?
And I think that was my only substantive comment other than the missing words. Anybody else?
I have one question. What is memorialization?
The right to put a memorial on the grave.
Usually a headstone.
Yeah.
Headstone, flushed granite marker, flushed bronze marker, or inscription on a columbarium niche or a mausoleum spot.
Just make sure that you understand.
Yep.
The nunc or tunc.
Which one?
Explain that.
What, no, no.
Villanova, oh, they had come and acquired land, so for which they should have sought approval before, but they didn't. Nunc pro tunc is lawyers speak for retroactively making something good. It's like going back.
Going back to the beginning.
It's sort of like Back to the Future.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, then with the corrections and the corrections to be made, have a motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, I just started, but we'll see. It's the other page when we get to the all right. Legislation and regulation. Mr. Malillo.
Okay, we have had some legislation filed. Most of them are repeats from last year, as for the Penn House did get signed. Depending, I could go through each of them. With the penal law, dealing with the amendment dealing with cemetery desecration, it increases the penalties. Actually, number 2 here is new. This is dealing with pet cemeteries, and would allow them to charge a fee for the burial of human cremated remains from pet owners. The regulation that was enacted does not allow them to charge it. But it also requires them to give notice to the purchaser of that right that such cremains are not covered by any protections provided to human cremains under the corporation.
Right, they're not intended to be human cemeteries.
Right. It's a one-house bill right now, it's just an example. Number 3 is from last year as well. It was allowed community foundations to be custodians of the cemetery trust fund and invest them. Next bill. Deals with reacquisition of lots owned by various societies. The reacquisition of lots that currently exist also apply to various societies.
And they would go back to who, or to what enemy?
To the cemetery.
To the cemetery, yeah.
There's a bill clarifying that cemeteries are only subject to regulation by the cemetery board that are cemeteries. The NPCL are the routine cemeteries. There's a bill that would expand the definition of cremation to include chemical processes. There's a religious corporation law bill to allow religious cemeteries to reclaim graves. And then there's a mental hygiene law provision that would release patient names for patients who have been buried for 50 years or more at a state mental health institution. A lot of those cemeteries are no longer being maintained. Markers have been removed. People want to, but markers have to be removed. People records, which I think will help that.
Thank you.
Regarding our own
Yes.
financial revision, we have had further meetings. We've narrowed issue basically down to one issue that remains to be resolved with interested parties. So we should be able to have a draft presented to the board next week.
Right, and the one issue, I think it's fully, we're gonna be able to deal with it.
Right.
Without much of a problem, so, I think we look forward to having the draft rules circulated prior to next meeting, right, and reasonable, finally, and, I think we'll be able to act at that time, so.
Cool.
Assuming everybody's in agreement, obviously.
Of course they'll all agree.
Definition of chemical process for cremation.
Yeah, there's a process known as alkaline hydrolysis that's actually in use mostly by hospitals for what they consider medical waste, body parts, tissue. There's also Cornell Veterinary College uses the process for farm animals and other animals. So it's an acid-based chemical process. The concern is that someone might try and start using that process for human remains and assert that they're not under jurisdiction for this application.
Right. Division, report.
Okay, so we have been going through, the state has wholeheartedly embraced a management philosophy called Lean, which stands for something that I forget.
Actually, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
Lean is just lean.
Lean is just lean?
Yeah, which is, that's in conformance with exactly what it is.
It's actually,
fair, that's it.
actually, it's Japanese for management philosophy that will improve how you do business.
Okay.
Many of the terms are Japanese, this may not be one of them. We've gone through a process of applying lean principles to our investigations and inspections. Our conclusions on these are still a bit of a work in progress. They're originally being reported out to a group tomorrow. But we hope to make inspections more meaningful and to track, to have auditors and investigators to some extent dovetail efforts a bit more, not necessarily doing everything together, but gather information that are useful for the other.
Absolutely.
And keep closer tabs on complaints we get. The next frontier for lien will be the accountant process, which will be both rate applications and audits. We're just getting going on that, but we think there's, like, in those areas especially, there are efficiencies to be gained. We actually found that our inspections process-wise is actually pretty efficient. What we're inspecting for may be a different story. There may be things that we're looking for that we need not look for, and vice versa. So that's a work in progress. It's probably the main thing the division has done in terms of policy. We've had also a, memorialization thing. There's no reason I can't mention that, can I?
Yes, you know.
Okay, so thanks to council, we have learned that many of us in the division, myself included, have been interpreting our own regulations incorrectly when it comes to the right of memorialization. There seems to be a misconception out there that the person who signs the authorization for interment thereby acquires the sole right to memorialize the decedent. A correct reading of the law, as interpreted by our council and reread by us, says no, that's not the case. The law has a hierarchy. The public health law, 4201, I believe, has a hierarchy of people who have the right to authorize interment, or they find this position, and all of the people within each class, assuming you've got let's say everyone in class number 1, they all would share the same right if there were multiple people designated in the testamentary instrument. Next class would be a certain class of relatives. They all share that right. We often get issues with this at the division level, where one relative wants this inscription, one relative wants that inscription. Many cemeteries think it's whoever signed for the burial. We now believe that is not the case, and that people will share that right. Unfortunately, the only dispute resolution mechanism here is that they all take the matter to court if they can't agree.
Notwithstanding the erroneous interpretation, correct interpretation, I think that's been primarily what the cemeteries have done.
Well, then
When
they're
there's a
sending
dispute,
people to
and it
court,
doesn't matter
yes,
what they think.
absolutely.
The law says, they said, you know what, we're out of this, guys. You got to get us a court order.
And that is still
Which
correct.
Which is the appropriate.
That is still correct, but people were left with the impression that whoever happened to sign for has a superior right, and it's simply not. And in one case in particular, the person who was saying no's sister could not get legal representation because of this prevailing thing that he signed, so that was it. No lawyer would take it on because they were saying you have a dog to the case, which I guess I shouldn't say in light of pet race. But that's really a really important clarification. It's something we get a steady trickle of, and we get it right now, which is good.
There you go.
That
the next council.
is what? Oh, no. Next council's not allowed to change their mind on that. They're stopped from changing their mind on that. That is everything I have on the division report. Those Ebola guidelines we've been waiting for the CDC? Still waiting.
Yeah. But there's been a lot of direction.
There's a lot more information. We've given direction, we've identified.
Figure out what to do.
Right, I think everyone, despite that, has a better clue as to what to do.
Yeah.
Okay, the vandalism report.
Oh, that's right, you're Chet also today.
I am Chad also today.
Okay.
And I'm the investigator staff too, because only Len's here. And Carrie, but she doesn't have any. So, to date, we've collected $39,689. You have granted applications totaling $491,376. We have $250,000, $250,500, in the hopper, a remarkably round number. What we have granted, 2 vandalisms totaling $9,295, 12 dangerous monument restorations, $242,280, and 3 abandonment applications totaling $239,801. That remarkable sum is attributable to 2 large abandonments that occurred. And that is where we stand. And I have a note here saying, extra copy attached for Dave Fleming.
Oh, look at that. We always have.
There you go.
All right, well,
Okay.
thank you. That was a very professional presentation.
Now, we have lots of dangerous monument applications, not lots, how many do we have? They're on page 2. We have 5. They are all, I believe, dangerous monument applications. Restoration of dangerous monuments. I think you've seen everything but the actual orders on these.
Yeah, we're fine, I think we're fine with the backup. I actually had a couple of questions. Are we in a position to answer them?
Well, it depends which one.
Well, it's not too tough.
Cindy is available by phone if it involves her jurisdiction.
Okay. By the way, one of my notes had a request to waive the second estimate because I couldn't find anybody. Is that right? The Royal Company, that was Concordia,
That's my recollection.
which is fine.
Concordia is you, Len, right?
No, they're all Cindy.
Oh, they're all Cindy? Okay.
It was fine. I didn't have a problem with it. 2 cemeteries bid out for separate memorial and separate foundation. One of them, I think it was Transit, said by virtue of preference. The other, because the memorial companies in the area really did the foundations. It's fine. But I just wondered why Transit would seek separate estimates when one would think that they would get a better package deal if they requested it from the single company.
The short answer is I have no idea. We can call Cindy. She is available by phone.
Okay. Sure, let's call Cindy.
Well, why don't we see if there are any other questions you guys have?
Yeah.
Then we can go
Okay,
on.
that was it for me.
When the application said hires its own foundation work, not.
Which one? Transit Rural? I'm guessing. Where are we?
I think
Yeah, that's
what she means by that is any,
they're actually, and it's almost the same question I had, is that they prefer to hire the foundation work separately. That's different from not being able to find the contractor to do both, memorialization and I'm just curious about that because it seems to me that you might get a better price, and I could be flat out wrong, but you might get a better price if you ask memorial companies to do foundation work to do both. Package deal.
well, not all memorial companies do foundation work either, so that might.
Let's try
be the
Cindy.
case. All right.
Yeah, well, that was clearly stated in the second one, that's why, you know, it's the distinction.
So are we okay with everything but Transit Rural then?
Yeah, we'll be fine with Transit World,
Okay.
well, I'm sure.
Looks like they got special guy they like to use or something.
Yeah, I think that's what they said, but, you know, on the other hand, it's not, I don't think it's worth
Hello, this is Cindy.
Hey Cindy, it's the Cemetery Board.
Hi.
Aren't you honored?
Can you hear Dan?
Huh? So, Cindy?
Hi, Dan.
Hi, how are you?
Yes?
We just had, oh, I think I better, isn't there
You
an
better just-
extension
hold on.
somewhere?
It's this guy,
I'll
right?
move down. The mountain will move.
Okay.
Hi Cindy, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
All right. So we just
How are
had.
you?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
Good. We just had a quick question on Transit Rural Cemetery. And what was written there was that the cemetery prefers to use the services of a contractor who does the foundations for them, presumably because they like his work. But because they like his work, they separated out the memorials from the foundation for the bids. And my question is, why?
Well, even the other note that I had, the 2 monument dealers, Wagner's and Stonehart, don't usually do foundations either.
Was that Jewish Federation or was that in Transit Rural?
No, that's both of them.
Oh, it's both of them. All right, I missed.
Actually, yeah, both of them.
Okay.
And they do prefer the work anyways on top of it, but normally Stonehart doesn't do foundations, and any of the bids, even from Mount Calvary, they don't. And I doubt that Wagner's don't do many foundations either.
All right.
They work with contractors.
All right, so that's the preferred practice in that neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's okay by me. Anybody else that follow up?
No.
Was that huge burning question that had to be answered? Your time with us is done.
That doesn't mean we won't bother you about Prospect Lawn.
Oh, we got something for Prospect Lawn?
We got another, we got our one appraisal.
Yes, and you got the 2 for Villanova.
Let's see, do I have these on here? I think I do. Yeah, I think I don't have Villanova on my agenda.
I would note that Prospect Lawn is 10,000 and they're selling it for 75. You know what? I tell you what, hang out, Cindy. Does anybody have any further questions or discussion with respect to these 5 dangerous monument applications? All right.
I have a mechanical question on the orders. We accidentally put the previous Commissioner of Health. I hand corrected them. This is okay like this, right? Because I don't want to have to wait and make you guys reconvene.
That is totally up to our designee for the commissioner.
Here, take a look. Take a look at what I did.
Why don't we sign them today and have a new set number?
But then you have to have them signed again.
Yeah, but we do it next week. We'll have them signed today, they're effective, and then we'll bring them up.
Oh, then we can, okay, fine.
Because I think it's sloppy to have that out.
Fine. But if we sign them today, they can get going,
Yeah.
and that's good.
Is that all right?
All right, cool. That works.
All right,
All right, so let's move on to,
Wait,
you want to make a motion?
So, may I have a motion on these 5 orders?
So moved for approval of 5 orders.
Thank you. Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. So those are done, we'll sign, we'll go around. And now, let's do Prospect next on the list.
Yes.
That's good. So, Prospect, we got an appraisal in, and granted, this is not a ton of money, but the selling price is $7,500, and lo and behold, the appraisal is $10,000. Cindy, anything on that? Does the cemetery have any issues with that?
No, they don't.
Why not? Why wouldn't they go back and renegotiate for 10?
I don't know. It's not useful to anybody else. It's not really useful to them. I
Right,
think
but
originally it was 10. I think originally they were gonna do 10. I don't know if this guy's gonna donate. I know there was a lawnmower issue in there too, but I don't really,
And that's not, I never heard anything about a lawnmower.
no. I don't know, there wasn't anything in the contract about it either, so I don't know, to be quite honest.
all right. Is there a need for speed on this?
Well, it's been since spring.
Yeah. But that, because I'm a little concerned. I mean, so now we have an appraiser who comes back with a higher figure. And why wouldn't the cemetery, if the gentleman wishes to have the property, seems to me to be fair to pay the appraised value unless the appraisal is somehow misguided.
That's what I'm looking to see if there's anything in the appraisal that
Why do I think that the original thing was for, the sale was for 10,000? Why?
Am I mistaken? But it now is for 75, right? Yeah.
I thought the sale was for 10,000. Where's my report?
If I'm wrong, I think the issue was they needed some of that money, and that would have been restricted to PM. So they were gonna pay the extra, and part of that was gonna go, they were
To
gonna use
the lawnmower.
they were gonna use part of that money. So it wasn't all restricted. But we're gonna have to check that out.
You mean they were gonna get sort of an in-kind donation from the landowner?
Yes.
In order to evade the strictures for depositing the requisite amount of permanent maintenance fund? Is that what you mean?
That may be the case, but let's
Well, why don't we?
They asked about the possibility of using some of the sale proceeds for a lawnmower. I see that.
I don't have we could structure from the maintenance fund something or other, but Okay. All right, we're gonna pen them one more time, Cindy, so you can get some background on this and figure out, and perhaps the cemetery wants to go back and renegotiate, or if there's an in-kind kind of transaction going on here that we don't know about, we should be apprised of it. Okay?
Okay, so we need to find out why not 10 then, okay.
Yep, yep.
Cindy, in support of what you said, I'm looking at Lewis's memo, or actually Rose's memo to Lewis, dated October 8th, and at the very end of her memo, it says, the sale of the land will increase the permanent maintenance fund restricted balance by 10,000. It's the only place where I see the mention of 10,000. So you might be right that initially there was a proposal of 10,000 for the
Right.
It was 10,000, it was supposed to be that originally, and it got changed because of this, because of everything having to go into the PM.
Well, you better,
The lawnmower deal.
let us scope this out. All
But
right?
we have no evidence that they're, even if the board were willing to go for them doing that, we don't have any evidence that they're getting a lawnmower.
Yeah,
That would be kind of critical, like, if they're gonna structure it in such a way to get something in kind, they at least better be guaranteed that they're getting something in kind.
I also don't know that they can structure it that way. Maybe we'll
Right.
talk about it.
Okay, so can you,
Let's see.
wait, Tony, you got anything else?
Actually, Cindy's memo also says, this is Cindy's memo.
Yeah, proposed sale price of $10,000,
All right.
0.75 acres,
So
November 28th, 2014.
So then,
So, is that the sale price?
So it's the sale price.
That's the sale price.
why do we have a sale price of 7,500?
I don't know, where is that?
Well, the appraisals, the real estate appraisals were only
It's a
$7,075.
broken price.
So did I screw this up? Was the sale price all, 10,000 all the time, and I just extended this discussion on this?
Wait, where's the contract? Here's the
I'm looking
contract,
at
hold on, I've
I
got
wanna look at
contract.
the notes.
Hold on, the contract.
The parcel property be sold to the purchaser, Eric Bauer, in the amount of $10,000.
So let's have the board approve, I
I'm not-
recommend that
yeah,
the board
I'm fine,
approve it
I'm
for
just
10,000.
crazy.
If it turns out he's paying less, they'll have to come back to us.
Yes, no problem.
Paragraph 6 of the petition.
It's 10,000, so
The appraisal, the one appraisal was 7,000 or 7,500, and now the certified appraisal is 10,000.
The broker price opinion.
So I screwed up. Okay,
Purchase price in the contract, $10,000. All right.
fine.
We
Motion,
have a motion, Mr. Chairman.
second. In favor? All in favor, say aye.
All right, see you, Cindy.
With my apologies, thank you, Cindy.
Okay, Villanova's not there then? 'Cause
No,
they
we don't
had
have
the
Villanova.
appraisals.
We do not have, I have nothing on Villanova.
Oh, and I sent those in. Oh, shoot, okay.
All
I have
right,
nothing on it. I don't think I've seen it.
Not here.
I don't remember whether I saw it at all, but I don't have it here.
okay.
Well, our next meeting is only in
Okay.
Cindy, our next meeting is in 3 weeks, not in 4 weeks, so it's not that big a wait for them to do it then.
Okay,
Okay, because those are both it. I
Okay,
emailed them.
okay, I'll check it
They're-
later.
they're-
I'll check it later.
Okay, so we're good.
Yes,
Good.
Okay, thank
get
you.
out of here.
all right, Pine Lawn
All
Cemetery.
right, I'll explain this. So Pine Lawn is, they have two things going on, one of which we took off the table because I didn't have enough information to recommend.
That's the interior roadway.
That's, the interior roadways thing, just briefly, as background, is they have a thing with the county, where the county widened the road and changed the curb cuts, and I think they added a traffic light. And Pine Lawn is reconfiguring the internal roadways, both to match the new traffic pattern on the street and to have better access, and I think ultimately to free up some space for
Yeah, it
vehicles.
sounds like a good deal.
But we don't, and the county has given them a chunk of change for it, but I didn't have enough on what their bids were on it to go ahead and recommend approval at this point. That'll be before you next month. What we have here, they apparently don't have enough water. They still water. They're probably one of the few cemeteries that we regulate that still waters on a regular basis, and apparently their water capacity is such as that they are watering during visiting hours because they can't water the whole cemetery at one time. they're digging another well, which is often in areas isolated from other graves, under some power lines, where they're realistically never gonna have any interments. They have hard bids and a package on this. Vince has been to the site, he's satisfied that it's not gonna interfere with anyone, the work's not gonna interfere with anyone. They have $44 million in, I think that's the general fund. And they have, and this is gonna cost, the whole project is gonna cost about $1 million. And they don't have anything in writing from the county, but they're gonna pay over $200,000 a year in water to the county if they provide it to the county, so the well would pay for itself in about 5 years. The issue that we had is that they have not bid out, they've only bid out the cost of digging the well, not of putting in the mechanical building and the additional electric power and other related, the short drive to it, other related stuff, to be able to finish the project, just haven't bid it yet. I don't know why they haven't bid it yet, but they haven't. I asked them, why are we putting this before the board now? And they said, it will be helpful for us to get authority to dig the hole. We will come back to you with the bids. They will be within this budget. We will continue to approve that separately. We want the digging the hole piece approved. I don't know why they need that approved,
Well,
but they want it.
because it's hard, because, and I'm sure everything is fine, well, fine, but you dig a big hole, that sort of puts all of us in a hole if something goes bad, right? I mean, it's really not a complete application. So, I mean, the question is, why do they need us to do this now? I don't imagine they'll start digging in the winter.
It's not a regular, apparently I think they can.
Really?
Yeah.
They want to start digging now? That's the
Yes,
Bruce, do you
they
think?
actually,
There wouldn't be a season down there where they wouldn't be able to do it. I
As
think
long
it
as
might be
they
a
get-
week or something like that.
Yeah,
There wouldn't be a whole
but
season where they couldn't.
right, as long as they get a certain period of
It's not just a
time.
hole in the ground. I think they're drilling the well and capping the well.
Yes.
And then doing the other part later. But I think they're finishing the well.
It's not really a separate project in the sense that the well would be useless without the electrical and
There's no question.
mechanical.
I didn't, because it was sort of not on the agenda, I didn't look, I don't know if the board members looked for schematics. Do we have schematics for the placement of the small building and there's
No, we
nothing
don't
there,
have
they
that
haven't done
detail.
that yet. Because, look, in concept, I have no problem approving it, but I really think that we must see the whole application.
I mean, I don't see any inherent reason why not approving it, why they would be impeded from bidding out all the other work, why us not approving this. You've already said for the record that it seems to you that this is a good project, you just need to see the details. If their concern is we don't want to go ahead and do the prep work on the big piece of it until they've heard that, now they've heard that. So that's a long-winded way of saying that with what you said, if you pen this to next month, they should be able to bid it out and bring it back to us.
I don't know why they can't. I mean, does anybody have any issues with this, at least philosophically?
Well, what about the road stuff? Can they do that by next month?
The road stuff, yeah, I've already told them if they get me bids, we'll put them on to next month. But that's totally separate from this, the one has nothing to do with the other.
I mean, I wouldn't even have a problem, that's why I asked if they had schematics there, because I wouldn't have a problem proving everything now, with the condition that it being within the budgetary, guidelines that they gave us.
If they had
And then
schematics, they didn't share them with us.
Yeah, so it's hard for us to.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna push this over, but, I mean, philosophically, yeah, they need water, it's got a 5-year payback, that's great, okay.
Conceivably, if they have schematics for us for next month, but they don't actually have bids, could this be put before you for approval, subject to not going over what they told us they're gonna spend?
Yeah, Tony's.
I don't love it either, but.
I tell you what, let's not go there. Let's pen this over for next month, hoping to get the whole package. All right, and if we don't.
Okay.
But we have approved the sale or the purchase, whatever it is.
For the road,
Yeah.
yeah, that was,
So we'll
that
only,
transaction's filed.
That was, July 2013, I think.
so we only have the well and the road.
internal.
And the road thing is they just have to bid that out, because the schematic of the roads was part of their original package.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything was in the original package. They just only went before us for the outside part. Karen, you wanna do Mount Carmel?
I haven't seen it, you saw it. What you doing?
Is that what's next?
Mount Carmel is next.
Mount Carmel wants to demolish a structure on their property and convert the space and patio area behind the structure to gravesite area. It would yield, I think, approximately 420 graves, and that they could sell at a very good price, and it would be a win-win for the cemetery. The structure's not currently in use. It was, it's a house-like two-story structure. It's dilapidated. It's boarded up. They have a new structure next to the old structure, which is a restroom facility. They're gonna leave that there to better facilitate cemetery clientele, and they're going to demolish this structure, which is, I think it was last occupied as office space, and then residential space up until last year for their, one of their employees, and they vacated with, in 2014. It's vacant, they've already done an asbestos abatement, everything is set for demolition, they've bid out the offers, they've got, you have the cost in front of you, I don't have it in front of me, so forgive my.
That's all right.
But it seems like a win-win situation. It seems like it would only they're going to fence off the area, so it's not going to disturb anyone, any of the mourners, anyone in the cemetery, and it should be done in a timely fashion. And it's, they have less than 1,000 graves left in the whole cemetery, so they need the space.
Their current clientele, or a large portion of their current clientele, are buying graves in large chunks now.
Yes.
So
they
they
sell
have
out.
to have inventory. 1,000 isn't enough, because people will come in and buy 15, 20 at a time.
There's no question, great Queens.
Yeah.
It's a desirable thing, and you're gonna free up sufficient graves to generate about $3.3 million. That's really good.
Yeah.
Do you have a question?
Is it reasonable to think that 420 sites could fit within the footprint of this building?
Yeah, it's not just the building, but it's also an area outside which is paved over right now in concrete. They're going to take that up, and they're going to get rid of all of this area that has picnic tables and some trees, and they're going to get rid of all of that, and it looks like a fairly decent amount of space.
That's good.
There's one other structure, there's an extant tool shed. They're going to move that. It's sort of a portable prefab structure. They're going to move that across the way to an area that's not designated as grave space. And so they're still going to have their tool shed area, and they're going to use that space as well for grave.
And we've already reminded them, I already reminded them that when they're done with demolition, they have to bring the dirt to be able to do the burials.
No C indeed.
And they know that.
Very good. I'm glad you did that. All right, I have no additional questions at this time. Motion? More motion? What do you want? Yeah?
Please.
All right, I'll motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Well, you're gonna get through this whole year without making a motion.
Oh, no, he already did. He already did. Yeah, he's now a motion veteran.
Lem.
Warwick Cemetery. This is the non-pro-tunc.
You know, it's got a cemetery that installed the columbarium without board approval, which I have a feeling we may be seeing more and more of.
We will not be seeing that, because our division letter
Oh, that's right.
that's
right.
going to all cemeteries, hopefully next week,
Yeah.
reminds them that they need division approval, they need board approval before they install a columbarium.
Well, more and more in the sense that we're gonna find them when we go out on inspections.
Well,
But
that's
anyway.
probably true.
Got it.
So they installed the columbarium. They didn't realize they needed board approval. It's a 122 niche unit. Actually, it's 2 units, and they also have pictures here, as you can see from the pictures. There's a couple of benches and a couple of statues that also hold niche space. So it's a total of 122 niches with the units and the statues combined. It was unanimously approved at their board meeting in November of 2013. The total cost is $64,221. They paid for it with they've had land acquisition funds accounts set aside for, they've been trying to buy land in the cemetery for many years, over 20 years, but unfortunately, real estate's high in that area, and they've been unsuccessful in their attempts, so they use this fund to set up this columbarium, and even after spending the $64,000, they still have over $300,000 remaining in this account. So in the event that land in the area does become available, then they'll still have adequate funds to purchase land. They've got 2 acres remaining, which is, they sell approximately 60 graves per year, so they've got enough, probably 20 years for remaining of lot sales. You know, they stand to generate $132,157 from their calculations, so they're doubling the return on their investment, and that is if they sell all the niche
And
space.
there's already 122 already purchased.
Mm.
And
They haven't sold any.
they haven't sold it.
No, well, actually, there is one interment, one niche has been sold, but it's not in the columbarium, it's on one of the statues or one of the blocks that.
So is that 122 the total number of?
The whole total
niches?
number, yes, so now I guess 121 remaining. So, you know, hopefully they will sell, as you can see from the pictures, it's a nice looking unit, it's in a nice section of the cemetery, it's not, you know, there are other graves around it, but not directly on top, and I don't know if they could have used this space, because it's kind of like on a little triangle, so they may have had a hard time selling graves in this area anyway, so I think they utilized the space well for what they did with this little unit here and this whole setup.
So the division's opinion is that notwithstanding that they neglected to obtain approval, this was a good project.
I think so. I think that given that the rate of increase in cremation and other cemeteries have done well with columbarium sales, and this is a nice looking unit, and if they didn't, if they had to borrow to construct it, then I'd say, well, maybe they're kind of, hoping for the best, but since they had adequate funds and they still have quite a bit remaining in these funds, then I'd say, they're probably ahead of the game.
When was it built?
They installed it over, I believe it was over the last fall. I don't have the exact date here.
Did they install it even before the board approved it?
Before, yes, they didn't get, they never
Not
received.
our board, but their board.
No, their board approved it. They had a meeting in November of 2013.
Oh, okay.
And they unanimously approved it at their meeting, so, they've been looking to do something like this for quite a while, and then since they've been having trouble acquiring land, I guess there's some land next to the cemetery, there's some farmland, but the owner wants too much, wants over $1 million for it, so they're not gonna be able to purchase that. Hopefully, something else will become available for in the future. As of now, this is what they have.
Question.
Yes.
Do they use land acquisition funds for the project? Is that within regulations?
There is, I suspect that's just a name for money they put aside. It's not a trust fund.
Alicia's here, she might be better able to answer that question. It's an account that they, I
It's
believe.
part of their general fund, and it was just labeled for their
That's right,
purposes
right.
as a land
Oh, yeah,
acquisition
yeah.
fund, it was not a trust
I-
fund.
Right.
It's just
a
a
good
part of their
question. I was actually
planning.
gonna make sure.
They're also using $7,500 of promotion and advertising, so that's still okay with regulations.
Yeah, it's all
As you said.
Okay.
The one concern I had was, had they done a proper procedure, they would have posted notices.
Yes, they would have.
Giving the lot owners an opportunity to comment. In the past, we had one where, similar to this, it was built and they came for permission afterwards. And we actually had them post notices after the fact, just so we could hear from the lot owners. It might not be, it's up to them.
Len has strong feelings on this.
Yeah, well, I just, the way I read the law, it's like, the way it states in the law that they observe the post-construction, construction notices for the proposed structure. So, you know, the structure's already there, it's not proposed, it's a done deal, I mean, they could post notices, but at this point, they're gonna get any comments, they might get complaints, more, that might generate more adverse reaction than positive, in my opinion, because they might say, oh, you were supposed to have posted this, why didn't you? You know, that's just what I think, I don't know, I mean, it's already up.
I was convinced by Len on this. We have another one that's pretty much like this, except they haven't sold it yet, down in Westchester County. In that one, the columbarium is very, very close to existing interments. So what I told them is before I would put it before the board, not only did they have to post, but I asked them to, where they agreed, to write to the last addresses they had for the graves that were really close, to put them on notice that this thing has gone up. If they have any questions or comments, call. The way, from Len's pictures, the way this is situated, this is not really infringing on anyone's existing interments. And that's the function that it is. The posting requirement when you're building a whole mausoleum, community mausoleum building is one thing. But for a columbarium, to me, the only issue really is, are you affecting the existing grave? And this
Well, I
doesn't,
mean,
to me,
there's lots of
seem-
issues.
In terms of the purpose, not the law.
Appearance of the structure, it could be taking away sites, the views, you know, people buy their graves because of views and what you see from them. So there's a lot of reasons that people might comment favorably or disfavorably.
Well, I don't know that, at least personally, negative comments would change my opinion on this. Because as you said, it looks like a very good project. Notwithstanding, to make the decision whether to post or not, on a case-by-case basis, if it's after the fact, is sort of dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we think that it's important to post, so that we can gauge the reaction of the lot holders in order to determine whether or not we should not approve it, all right? Because not approval means rip the thing down, it's a big deal, right? We ought to afford that to all, because as Tony said, there's a lot of issues. I don't foresee, I mean, I think you probably have your finger on it with the secretary on the pulse. I don't foresee any negative comments, just for the very reasons that you described to us. But if there's a policy in place where they say, you know what, before we bring this to the board ought to have an understanding of what the reaction is of the lot holders, I think we probably ought to apply it uniformly. I don't know, folks.
Well, is the purpose of the comment period for us or for the cemetery?
It's actually for both, I think. You know, because the regulation, you know, contemplates you post notice that this thing is going to happen, right? So that means a lot of folks can come in and voice concerns. So the cemetery can take that and make amendments to its project, obviously. But if it comes to the board, as it is, the board also knows what's been said. And there may be things that the board takes cognizance of. For instance, in cell towers, the very first cell tower or two that we did, line of sight, you know, and the fact that you had this large structure potentially in the middle of the cemetery was a real issue for us, because we didn't know on the board how the public was going to feel about that. So the posting was extremely important for us to know what the lot holders felt. And uniformly, they didn't seem to have a problem.
Just a hypothetical here, okay, let's say, before I even brought this to the board, I went in inspection, discovered a columbarium, it had been sold, okay, you didn't seek board approval, now you have to, I'm gonna write you notice of non-compliance, and meanwhile, you have to post notices for 60 days.
Yep.
Let's say they did that, and they received all sorts of negative comments, suggestions, and then I brought that along with everything else to the board, where would we go from there?
Right. Well, you know, the board, if there were comments such that the board felt that the structure should not be there, then we would include it, right? There could be serious, we don't know, there could be really serious concerns that really involve the rights of lot holders. There could also be a lot of niggling concerns, or, you know, folks don't like the color, you know, whatever it might be. And I guess we take that into consideration, but then you weigh the benefit of the project and the cost of taking it down. Most likely, we approve it.
Is this by the entrance then?
No, it's in the back. So.
Because if we're by the entrance, then I really would make a pitch for you to overlook it, because everyone who enters the cemetery sees this new thing there.
Yeah, I think it's been there. I mean, on the other side, I sort of think you might have heard about it already, folks who live in Bluff.
I think that's right.
I understand that. But on the other hand, you sort of did yourself ill a little bit when you said that I think that in other situations we should require notice.
I actually don't agree with that. I think that primarily, I think there is reason to draw a distinction when things come up, because the biggest concern to me really is infringing on someone's grave. And if you're putting it somewhere where you're not doing that.
So Louis, I've got, let's say it's Korean-dominated cemetery, and I've got a view up the hill. All right, and that view is blocked by structure. Isn't that a concern?
Potentially.
I mean, shouldn't that concern be heard by the board?
Potentially, that's not the case before us.
No. What I'm saying is that's not.
I'm not saying, but I don't think you don't. The fact you don't. Before the fact, we currently require postings in all cases. This having gone up 3 months ago, nobody's saying boo about it, and it doesn't look to Len, who's going out and doing this for years, that there's any reasonable
Of course, the
issue that's going to arise.
The lot owners don't know that they have a right to say boo about it until you post something that says they have a right to say boo about it, and you have 60 days to submit something, right?
That's more of a concern to me, that this cemetery didn't follow the rules. And now we're saying, oh, that's okay. But one of the purposes of the posting is for the cemetery as well as for us. And the cemetery, they don't know because they haven't asked, I don't think they've asked for input from lot owners.
Well, they voted at their annual meeting, so they didn't mention how many lot owners attended. In most cases, there's not many that go, even in the larger cemeteries. They get a minimal amount of lot owners that do attend these meetings, so chances are they had no comments on it anyway at the meeting. But you know, yeah, if they posted like they should have, if they'd known, they may have gotten some feedback on it and some questions and some.
Well, I guess I didn't understand, Len, what is the harm now in asking them to post?
I guess there's no harm, but the way I was just looking at it strictly from the way the regs read, and it says the proposed structure. It doesn't say the completed structure, it's the proposed structure, so it's like, it's already there, you know, what you know,
You're
what's the
making a very
use?
lawyerly distinction.
Yeah, it says proposed structure because it's not supposed to be there.
That dog ain't gonna hunt. All right, here's the, look, as a matter of policy, I think it is appropriate for the lot holders to have an opportunity to comment, notwithstanding that's already been done. I don't see any reason to abridge that in this particular circumstance. No harm to the cemetery. Let's have it posted. If we get a bunch of folks who want the color changed, then we'll have to deal with that.
May I make a suggestion, so that this doesn't have to come back before the board again?
Yes, the board can assess the comments. I would say if there's no.
Right, you can make a resolution adopting it now, provided that they don't receive any approving it, provided that they don't receive any adverse comments during the posting period. If they receive any adverse comments during the posting period, then we have to come back.
So moved.
Second.
Did you take care of it?
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
We'll translate.
Fair enough.
Good job, Louis, thank you. All right, wow, okay. That, even with my mistaken 7-minute colloquy, on the $7,500, I'm finishing pretty expeditiously on the public portion. So,
One thing, you mentioned at an earlier meeting that the division might handle this columbarium.
Yeah, Mike Seelman has been working on a simplified columbarium application. He's not able to be with us today, so.
And that's a part of that?
Hopefully we can have it for next meeting.
yeah. I don't know that we'd ever want to give the board the authority to directly approve non pro tunc kind of orders, only because.
Right.
No, I think we still, you mean the division. I think
Yeah, the
we still
division,
have to
yeah,
use
yeah,
that.
yeah, but for prospective approvals,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's really, actually, it was really nice to have this in front of us, to see that the actual structures, they're really very minimal structures, you know, so, yeah, I think we really should. do that
If you
next
saw
time.
the pictures I took of Oakland as compared to these,
Yeah.
you'd understand why I was drawing this distinction.
Yeah, okay, you'll have to educate me.
Of course, you're probably gonna end up approving that anyway, because nobody's gonna object.
Let's see.
You know, note that, you know, the reg, part of the reg dealing with notice, 60 days notice and opportunity to comment to lot owners, does not apply if they're doing an addition that doesn't exceed 250 spaces. So that sounds like a parameter that you could use as what's a de minimis and what isn't 250 spaces.
You mean to distinguish between what would have to come before the board and what would stay down? Okay, that makes sense.
All right, well, having reached the end of our agenda for public session, I will open the floor up to anybody who'd like to address the board. Nothing, no politics of the day. I'm not gonna go there, but it's an interesting day in Albany. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan mentioned it, there's gonna be really bad traffic tonight
Yeah.
on Plaza.
There is. Okay, well, wow. That being said, or not being said, what we'll do is take a 5-minute break, and then we'll go into executive session for investigative, or litigative matters.
Could we attempt to
Yep, we
set
can,
a-
we'll do that, but I'll motion that. Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye? Yes.
Date, so we should set a date for the next meeting.
Sure, whenever you
Because
want.
of the holiday schedule, the proposal was to have the meeting the week before President's Day as opposed to the week after President's Day.
Okay.
That would be,
The 12th?
it would be the week of Monday, hold on, but Paul has a conflict on Thursday, so we would want to consider, hold on,
You don't have a conflict on the 12th? 12th,
so let's do it on the 12th.
12th is it?
10:30?
12th at 10:30. I
Okay.
have to say I prefer the mornings. I
No,
don't
we,
know.
again, we only did.
I'm
this
more
because-
chipper in the morning.
You're doing pretty good with chipper.